Our museum is dedicated to the history of Arctic convoys. The Soviet ambassador in Great Britain, Ivan Maisky, called the convoys the Northern Saga of heroism, courage and bravery. We started our research work on the convoy's history 30 years ago. In 1988, the British veterans came to Murmansk for the first time after the end of the Second World War. In spite of the fact that our school was opened in September 1988, our teachers and pupils met a group of veterans who arrived in our city to celebrate Victory Day in May. Since 1989, the convoy's veterans have been visiting Murmansk and staying with our teachers and pupils' families. They shared their war experience, sent books, letters, and photos. The exhibition it's allowed us to open the first exhibition dedicated to the convoy's history. The first exhibition was opened in 2001, and 2 years later, our museum got the status of a public museum. Now there are 9 exhibitions and 700 exhibits kept in our museum. Among the exhibits, there is a model of a ship in Duna, torpedoed in March 1942. She went in Murmansk as a part of convoy PQ-13. The sailors who managed to escape spent 4 days in a boat before they were discovered by a Soviet ship. Many of them received severe frostbite and were treated in hospitals in Murmansk and Archangel. Here you can see the photos who served on steamer in Duna. Norman Blythe, 18-year-old, died in the explosion. James Campbell, service assistant, suffered severe frostbite. Was treated for a long time in Murmansk and Archangel. His granddaughter was named Tanya in honor of the nurse who had taken care of Jim in the hospital. This is a photo of Austin Byrne, who recalls there were 9 of us in the lifeboat. I remember the boy, James Anderson. He was rather lightly dressed and soon was cold and drenched. I advised him to sit in the bottom of a boat and get out from the wind. He complained that he was afraid. I advised to pray, but our firefighter declared that any prayers won't be because he's the atheist. I told James to pray in his mind, paying no attention to anyone. After 4 days, we were picked up by Soviet sailors. I was called to help a nurse who dealt with James. She tried to take off his clothes and lay him down. Then he groaned in pain. Such terrible moments I have never heard of. He was so cold, he couldn't straighten up. And when we took off his clothes, we saw something which horrified us. The poor fellow was black with frostbite, and his hands had deep wounds from which the joints protruded. We laid him on the bed, and I looked at his face. It was frozen, and the gaze was blank. I was 20 years old. I had never seen such a thing and was deeply shocked. The next morning we arrived in Murmansk. We were placed in the hospital, school number 1. When I learned that Anderson had died on the 3rd of April, he suffered 4 days. It was a terrible, painful death. He was only 16 years old. And James Anderson was buried in the military cemetery of the city Murmansk. One of the survivors, William Short, sent us a copy of a letter dated on the 29th October 1942. It was signed by British sailors and addressed to the Soviet doctors and nurses. It contains these lines: with tears in our eyes and hearts full of grief, we leave our Soviet friends, to whose kindness and care we owe our lives. Although we are far from you, you will always live in our hearts. We are proud to have received our wounds by helping such wonderful people. Now, it is especially to preserve the continuity of his historic memory and continuity of generations to remember the heroic details of those such distant events. Thousands sailors lost their lives in the bitter Arctic seas in the convoys. They admire their courage, bravery, and heroism. Their deeds should not be forgotten.